G'day guys, and welcome back to WA Now and Then. For those of you who've watched our Wildflower Trip series, you might remember that while we were at Datjon Rock, I mentioned there was a story related to the area. Well, now I'm going to tell you that story, and yeah, quite a story it is. As is usual with stories such as this, there are, well, quite a few differences between official versions, newspaper versions, and reminiscences of people who were involved. But this is the story as far as we can tell. In 1971, an Aboriginal man named Lionel Arthur Brockman escaped from Wooroloo Rehabilitation Centre, collected his large family, and headed off for the bush. Now, when I say he escaped, he apparently just walked out. So any thoughts of climbing over barbed wire fences or tunnelling to freedom should be abandoned about now. After first heading for the northern area, he then continued northwards towards Payne's Find. After some time, Lionel and his family made their way 150 kilometres to the small farming area of Wialki. One of Lionel's hideouts was Datjon Rock. Here he stayed with his wife and 11 of his 12 children. Lionel had been sentenced to 3 months for petty theft and had escaped just 20 days before his sentence was due to expire. Lionel had only taken to petty theft when he ran out of money and wanted to buy Christmas presents and food for his children. Like his father before him, Lionel had refused to go on welfare for most of his life. The reason Lionel had escaped was that he had a visit from his wife Jean and became aware that his family had no money, no food, and also nowhere to live. While Lionel was in prison, his family was staying with relatives, but when a government officer visited the home they were in, they were told to get out due to overcrowding. So that's what led to Lionel's escape. The stories told about Lionel became more and more fanciful as time went on. According to some, he'd stolen a television set and a generator and placed the TV in a tree so that he could watch what the authorities were saying about him. Every petty crime across the state was unfairly blamed on Lionel. After 6 weeks on the run, Lionel's status suddenly changed to dangerous because it became known that he was carrying a .22 rifle. Being a bushman, the rifle was simply a means of providing food for his family, but according to the authorities, he was now armed and dangerous. The press, as is their usual habit, made a great deal of the dangerous nature of this half-caste man, who had the bush cunning of an Aborigine and the planning skill of a white man. It was all total racist hogwash, but they never let that get in the way of whipping up public fear and anxiety. Press hasn't changed much, has it? Thankfully, the press frenzy didn't have much of a major effect on many of the bush people, who realised that a man travelling with his family was hardly likely to be dangerous. There was some concern about what Lionel would do if he was confronted while he was taking, say, chickens or chicken eggs from farms. So not everybody was actually overjoyed at the prospect of him being in the area. There were some in the community who actually supported Lionel's attempts to remain free, but this was largely concealed in the close-knit community. Some local farmers took pity on him and turned a blind eye to the occasional missing chicken because they knew Lionel was feeding his family. The police kept watch over the only waterhole in the area, but Brockman came and went undetected. On September 24th, 1971, Lionel's wife Jean gave herself and her children up to the police. The papers reported that they had been surprised and captured, but that was a complete lie, presumably told to make the police look a little less incompetent. On October 7th, Lionel and his eldest son were apprehended near Morowa in a bush camp. Brockman was charged with 52 offences. 29 charges were dropped, and there was a public outcry about this supposed leniency, but the truth eventually came out. It finally emerged that Lionel's original offence had come about when a relative stole Lionel's share of a payment for work he had done. And when Lionel approved for assistance from the government, he was refused. This led to the initial petty theft. One has to wonder how Lionel managed to provide for his large family during their time on the run, but provide for them he did. The police had engaged in a major manhunt for a petty thief, and wound up costing the taxpayers $31,146. That was quite an amount in those days. They had obviously conducted such an intensive search due to Lionel's success in evading the law. He was on the run with a large family of children for 5.5 months, and that made the authorities look rather foolish. Lionel was sentenced to 3.5 years for 10 charges and 9 months for the remaining 13. That was despite the fact that the government, through its own negligence, had brought about the whole mess. This story is told in detail in a book called The Brockman Affair 1971, written by Tresna Shorter.